and I'm going to go ahead and assume folks can dial in and catch up as we go along. My name is Ryan Steens. I am the community manager for Avalon. And today I'm going to be facilitating the conversation. Andrew is here and he is going to be note taking for us. Thank you so much, Andrew. We do have a pretty full agenda. I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion. I do want everyone to take a look at the agenda, as the first thing we're going to do is amend and approve the agenda. And then Brian is going to, from Utah, is going to talk about lunch on Friday for people attending Utah Samvera Connect. Then we will talk about the partner meeting at Stanford. That is at the end of the month, and go over that agenda. I believe that'll probably be Richard. And then we're going to talk about the partner meeting at Connect and the timeline for that. And Richard will be taking that on. And if you've been following the community the past week or so, you're aware of what's going on with the governance working group. It says that I'm going to be leading this, but I do have, and Mark, hopefully Mark is here, but we do have Carolyn Casey and Rosalind Metz from Emory, who are co-facilitators for that group. So I am sure they will want to talk a bit about what's going on there. Following that, we have announcements, any other new or old business, and then we'll wrap it up. Does anybody have anything that they would like to see added or adjusted on the agenda at this point?
Ryan, this is Richard. Number 3, the Samvera Partner meeting. I think probably it's going to be Rosalind who's going to lead that one.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. If everyone is okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pass the microphone off to Brian over at Utah to talk about lunch on Friday for people attending Utah Samvera Connect.
Good morning and afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to give everyone an update. So at the last partners call, then we discussed changing the conference schedule a little bit. So the first day will be the partners meeting, the second day will be workshops, and the following 3 days will be the conference proper. So as part of what we've decided to do is provide lunch as part of the conference, just due to some logistics concerns. So one of the questions that has come up is we're planning on having lunch on the Wednesday provided, and lunch on Thursday provided as well. But there's been some initial discussions on, do we want to provide lunch on Friday? Typically the attendance seems to sort of drop off on the last day, so we were wanting to sort of confer with the partners group to see what the consensus is on, do we want to price in lunch on Friday for everyone in attendance, or do we not want to provide it? So with that, just sort of throw it out to the community for some input.
Anybody have any opinions on that one?
Brian, can you help us understand what the landscape is there? Like, if lunch weren't provided, are there restaurants to go to nearby, or like dining facilities or something like that?
Yeah, of course. So the Samvera Connect is happening on our university's fall break. So what that will mean is the university student union facilities will be open. So there's pizza, sandwiches, salads, and there's a few other options in there. And the hours for that will be from I think 7 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, and that is approximately a 5-minute walk from the library, and it's pretty level, so we're not too concerned about that. We haven't approached any of the food trucks that are typically on campus at this moment, but that's something we're planning on doing this month to see if there's some sort of agreement we can come to that they'll be there on campus for fall break, but we're unsure what some of their thoughts might be. But in terms of local restaurants that are close to campus, there are quite a few within walking distance from campus, so approximately 10 to 15 minutes from the library. The one concern we have though is Salt Lake City is at high altitude, 4,500 feet approximately. So walking down the hill to the restaurants isn't necessarily a big deal, but we're sort of concerned that walking up the hill could be a bit a concern for some folks. So I mean, there are those options available. We just weren't sure. We want to make sure that we, provide people with easy access to lunch. So that's what we're sort of thinking about catering options, rather than having people go out for lunch, either at the student union or slightly off campus.
Brian, this is Carolyn. So when we hosted partners here during the fall, I'm pretty sure we broke for lunch and also went to our student union here, and it was also, very pretty close, 5-minute walk, and there were plenty of options. So personally, I think it's fine if we don't have partners catered. It sounds like accessibility-wise, it's pretty okay to at least head over to the student union since that's open. That's just my opinion.
Anyone else have any thoughts on the matter for providing lunch during the conference proper?
Yeah, this is Rick just from Notre Dame. I would concur with Carolyn there. I think as long as if you qualify it like you just did, saying, just in case you're not quite sure about climbing back up the hill with the lower oxygen in the atmosphere, right? There's a perfectly good option just to walk over to the student union, right? So that I think it seems okay to me.
This is Nabila, and I would back onto what Caroline and Rick just said. And in addition to that, I was wondering maybe in the registration form we can have a select box that how many days are you going to be there, so you have an idea like how many people are staying for Thursday and Friday.
Thanks, Nabila.
Any other questions or comments for Brian?
So this wasn't about lunch per se, but was about the meeting, the upcoming meeting. And I was wondering if there's going to be a call-in opportunity there.
That's something that I need to work out with the folks at Stanford. I actually have a call with Tom Kramer right after this, and I was going to ask him about that, see which rooms in Green we'll be using. So we can talk about that in further depth if you want in the next agenda item. But yes, people have indicated that there will be a call-in option.
So sorry, at the one that's just coming up, right? Not in the fall, but the one that's happening.
Right. That's what. So this is Rosalind. I'm chairing the partner meeting in March.
Yeah.
So that is something that people have indicated that they would like a call-in option.
Okay.
I have to talk to Tom Kramer about what room in green is the meeting is in, because some of the rooms are less conducive to phone calls than others.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for looking into that. I know I'm one who can attend, and I was talking with Steve Vental, who's also not able to travel, and so we were just talking about that, and I was like, I'm just going to bring that up and ask. So thank you very much.
I'm going to take that as our segue to move on to the next topic, unless we'd like to return and have any questions for Brian. I know that he's actually going to jump off the call as soon as he's wrapped up. So going, gone for Brian's time.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
So just to double check, so the consensus of the partners was that providing lunch could be optional. It's not something we necessarily need to do, but if financially it makes sense, maybe do it.
Was that everybody's understanding?
That was
Good to
mine.
me.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds like we've got consensus.
Well, thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
I apologize for note taking. The consensus was no lunch. Was that right?
Brian?
Yeah, it's sort of an optional thing if it makes sense, but I think we're sort of, we'll just run the numbers, but I think it might make sense not to provide lunch, but we can circle back and let everyone know what we find. So yeah, I'm just going to, at this moment, it's not going to be a requirement for us, but we'll do our due diligence and see if it, if it only adds a few dollars to the registration fee, maybe do it. But
Okay, thanks.
Great.
Sorry, I totally jumped the gun there. Total reading comprehension fail, so I thought that we were just talking about March all at once, so apologies for that.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to go ahead and thank Brian for his time, and he may disappear. If you guys have questions for him, he's pretty easy to find, so we can track him down. The next topic is the Samvera Partner Meeting agenda for March, returning to that, and Rosalind?
There have been a few agenda items added to the partner meeting. Two were added by folks other than Richard. So the one was a request for an update from the Components Maintenance Working Group, and it appears that there are folks from that group that will be at the meeting. I haven't reached out to them. That's a newer addition. One was a request for the virtual Samvera meeting. I know that's a topic of conversation that's come up in the past. One of the things I kind of wanted to understand was the remaining items, the Samvera governance, resourcing, planning. The annual report, I think, is self-explanatory, fundraising. Richard, yes, you're here. I wasn't sure those items, if there were specific topics to discuss separate from governance, or if they were things that should be talked about as part of governance, or kind of what in particular the topics would need to talk about.
They are, as you know, Rosalind, all sort of intimately interlinked nowadays. But I think in putting the Samvera governance bullet there, I was thinking specifically just to wrap up around the recommendations and let folks know where the process goes from wherever it is on March the 28th or 9th or whatever it might be. But in terms of planning for the year ahead, and with those recommendations in mind, probably, we need to agree with the community, which means agreeing with partners, what we're going to do about fundraising, because if, as I suspect we all seem to think, we ought to be looking towards someone working for Samvera as a technical manager, then that has implications for fundraising, just exactly what is that message, what other things do we need funds for, and so on. Resourcing, people might have ideas about where Samvera can raise additional money, because one full-time equivalent person is a big enough ask financially. I mean, Eurospace have done the calculations for us some little while ago, and they reckon that one full-time equivalent is going to cost Samvera, depending how it's done, from memory, somewhere between $180,000 and $210,000 a year. If we want two full-time equivalents, we're going to have to do some pretty fancy footwork to bring that sort of money in. So it would be worth discussing, I think, how that might be done, and so on.
Okay.
And there will be other things, what other things do we need to do? We've talked about documentation in the past, and I know there are now working groups taking care of that, but we need to get the big picture so that we know just exactly what we're trying to find money for, as well as the full-time posts, and have some sort of strategy for prioritising that and putting it all together so that we can do it.
Okay. So it sounds like there's some fundraising, planning, resourcing conversations that are distinct from some other planning, resourcing conversations. And that's fundraising, planning, resourcing conversations might need to follow on the heels of the Samvera Governance Working Group update.
Yeah, I would think so, and I'd be quite happy to work with you nearer the time, if it would be helpful to sort of unpick that slightly and add a little bit more detail into the structure.
Okay, so now I'm going to put Franny back on the spot again. Franny, when you and Steve Van Tile talked about, because I don't see him on the list, when you talked about attending virtually, one of the things the governance working group had talked about was that we wanted to do another WebEx portion of the meeting so that we can be more transparent about any changes to the recommendations. Again, provide a kind of an overview like what we did before. I'm assuming, of course, there are other topics that you would be interested in, but I can't, and right now I just can't remember what that classroom looks like. I think I remember what it looks like, but I don't want to say for certain. So my concern is if we didn't have a phone for the whole Connect, are there certain topics where you feel like we should be recording and having conversations more so than the others? And this, I'm putting Franny on the spot because she said she wants to call in, but if there are other people here who also have opinions, I would like to hear those as well.
Yeah, so I think the governance, as you were saying, also I think on the planning and annual report side of things, that would be great to just kind of even to be able to be a fly on the wall there. Even if it was just like an audio connection and could type into Slack chat or something like that to interact if there are any comments. But I think I could think about it a little bit more and kind of identify which pieces I think would be most useful and relevant. I think the governance is kind of the most pressing for me there. But the planning also.
Okay.
Hi, this is Mike at Tufts. I'm pretty certain no one from Tufts is going to be able to make that meeting, and we'd also probably be interested most in the governance portion if you did provide audio.
Okay. I figured I just want to make sure that I'm structuring things appropriately in the event that we don't. If I'm remembering that room correctly, there is a phone in there. I think I sat in interviews once in that room, but I don't want to make an assumption until I talk to Tom. And then Richard, going back to the kind of other resourcing planning topics, would it be safe to say those are more around the software that we produce, rather than say the large, the things are really linked, but maybe more of the technology planning. So it might be good to kind of put that resourcing planning conversation closer to, say, an update from the component maintenance working group.
Certainly you'd want to take their needs into account, so yes,
Okay.
I think that would be reasonable.
All
But
right.
I would make the point, I don't think it will end up being all about the technical software support side of things.
No, I don't either, but I think when ordering, I want to make sure that I'm imagining that we're going to get into conversations about like what is needed. So just making sure that we're ordering appropriately.
Yeah. Can I just ask Rosalind, I noticed that Linda Newman's not actually on the call. She put a comment at the bottom of this agenda about might it be possible to have a bit of time joint with the Dev Congress that's going on, which is sort of along the lines that you're talking, I think.
All right, hold on then.
Right at the bottom of the agenda page.
Yeah, hi, this is Glenn Horton. I'm with the University of Cincinnati, and I'm today for Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about this call's agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Linda did add a comment to the bottom of today's agenda where she suggested that since there will be a developer congress happening those same 2 days at Stanford, and on the developer congress agenda, there's some talk about the components working group that we might want to have the partners meeting and the developer congress find some kind of common time during one of those 2 days to maybe get together to just kind of share an update on the components working group stuff.
Yeah, Carolyn added a update from the components maintenance working group, but it might be good to schedule it so that any developers who might still be lingering could show up. Thank you for pointing that out, Richard. I may also, depending on timing, do another call for agenda items. Mark Bussey and I were just having conversations around an article that he read, and I might even send out a survey to see if there are other ones. Again, I got to kind of look at the time for the agenda and then figure that out. And I was hoping to do that today after this call. Are there other things that folks want to talk about with regard to the partner meeting in March? All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rosalind. If you guys have anything you want to circle back to and ask her, Rosie's pretty easy to find, but we can also use some time maybe at the end of the meeting. With all of that done, we're going to move on to the partner meeting attached to the Connect conference. Richard? Hopefully Richard is still with us. Richard is muted.
Okay, Richard is stupid as well, but okay. Yeah, I was just saying to myself that I think actually we've covered most of this in asides on the previous couple of items. But anyway, let's just pull it together. Following the conversation that took place on the last partner call, we have worked with folks at Utah to put a partner meeting on the Monday of the week that Connect was scheduled for. So where we are now is that the partner meeting will be on the Monday the 8th of October. Going back to something else, we're looking at the possibility of audio dial into that, but as we were noting in the context of the Stanford meeting, it depends a bit on room acoustics and all sorts of things, but it is being investigated. That means that Connect workshops will take place on Tuesday the 9th, the conference proper all day Wednesday, all day Thursday and Friday until lunchtime. There will be no formal program after Friday lunchtime. That said, the Utah folks will make space available on the Friday afternoon for any small groups who might want to have meetings, but they will also make space available earlier in the week, sort of at the beginning and end of the day, so that people who have a need to get away to airports or whatever on Friday afternoon can still find slots, hopefully earlier in the week, to do things. The one thing that we haven't mentioned so far, Andrew's actually taking notes for this meeting, but I'm sure he would want to say that we're still looking for additional volunteers on the program committee, and Andrew would be delighted to hear from you. We've got a very healthy number of people who are bringing forward their expertise from last year to help with this year's conference, but it would be good to have some new folks on board who could perhaps hopefully take their expertise forward to 2019. I think that's it. Thanks, Ryan.
Do we have any questions for Richard? I do think we've been touching on a lot of these meetings over the course of the past half hour, so I'm not too shocked if we don't have too many questions.
I do have one note-taking question. Richard, you said the partner meeting will be that Monday, and then the conference proper day Thursday, was that right?
The partner meeting is the Monday, Connect workshops on the Tuesday,
right?
And
Okay.
the conference Wednesday, Thursday and Friday morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on, the next topic is the governance working group and the current status and outcomes there. There is a hyperlink there to the wiki page with our charter and meeting notes and whatnot from that group. I'm the secretariat for that group, if you're wondering why I'm talking about it. But our co-facilitators are Carolyn and Rosie. We did get feedback in. The deadline for that was end of day on the 7th. We did have lots of participation. Thank you so much. That feedback is currently being worked on. I didn't know, Carolyn, if you wanted to pick up the baton here.
Oh, no, you can keep going. I was just muting myself just in case.
So what's occurring now is we are reviewing the feedback. We have a meeting this afternoon where we're going to go over it and talk about next steps. There's, of course, questions about how to integrate in the feedback. We definitely have some trends that we need to address, and we need to deal with how voting on this document will work. And there's some questions about that. So we are currently sorting through those issues. I wish I could give everybody a more concrete answer for how everything is going to work exactly at this point, but I think we're going to know a lot more on Monday, and we will inform the community as we come out of that meeting. The goal is to have the revised doc available to the community by the 19th. So it's available then for the partners meeting, which we just discussed. And then voting, part of the question about voting is we found out we'd had this April 2nd date. It turns out the UK is on holiday that day, so we're making some adjustments there as well. Now is a great time to ask questions since you have Carolyn and Rosie. And Andrew seems to be losing audio. I'm not sure if that's just my audio. I'm assuming it is. Can everybody else hear me, or was I cutting out?
I could hear you fine.
Yeah, you're fine here as well.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'm happy to start talking about any announcements folks might have out there, any new or old business.
Just very quickly, sparing Andrew's blushes, you may have noticed on the bottom of the email that I sent out about reserving the dates for this year's Connect, that Andrew and his colleagues at Worcester have graciously agreed to host 2019's Connect, and we thank him very much for that.
Yay!
That's fantastic.
Andrew is going to be a very busy boy.
Does anybody have any project updates or anything they want to share from what's going on in your neck of the woods? Okay. With that, we need to choose a moderator and note taker for the next meeting. And if we don't get one, I'm already looking at a name I'm going to make do it. So. Nabila, would you like to be facilitator next time?
I didn't see that coming. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Does anybody want to take notes next time? Oh, Maria's on the call. Maria, would you like to take notes next time? Maria just muted herself so she can get out of it.
No, I thought I was muted before. Sorry. What's the date of next call?
That's a great question. I am not entirely certain.
Friday, the 13th of April.
13th of April. Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Thank you so much. The community appreciates your service. All right. Everybody, thank you so much. And everybody who was able to share information today, really appreciate it. And we will see you on the 13th.
Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, we'll see everybody actually in Stanford. So see you there.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, folks. Thanks. Bye.
And thank you, Andrew, for taking notes. Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Bye-bye.
Sure.